Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Dental Assistant Nerds podcast. I'm your co-host, John.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening. It is Amanda. So we thank you for listening today. So we have a great hot topic for you.
Yeah, so we wanted to talk today about investing in your team. You get a job in a practice and you want to invest in your team from the ground up, like day one. So, with that in mind, Amanda, what was your first job?
Good old Burger King. Fast food.
Yeah, that's
Oh man, quite the experience. I was 15. I got a work
oh,
permit.
woo! Now, let me ask you a question. When you went for that interview at Burger King, and they said, "Hey, we want to bring you on. We'd love to have you as a member of the Burger Squad or whatever they call it there." Um,
King size it.
yeah. What was the process as far as you going in and like, okay, hey, we want you to work for us. What did they tell you? Like, how did it work?
So if I remember correctly, of course, interview, yes, we'd like to hire you. Work permit, my training rate or my rate of hire was discussed. So
Okay.
we have to remember, in a sense, any platform of career that we're getting into, how much am I getting paid? Whether it's at Burger King or dental assisting, that I was getting my hourly rate. Oh my gosh, I think it was 5.25 was the minimum wage.
Rolling it.
And huh?
Rolling
Yeah,
it.
yeah, rolling it in. And then, I was set up with a schedule of coming in and first day and starting that process of learning how to make the Whopper, how to turn on, this the oven that bake the eggs for your sausage, egg, and cheese croissant.
So
And
they were showing you their system, right?
yeah, yeah. So you get that as we know, even in the dental world, you have a training period. And I definitely vividly remember a training plan checklist. I do remember that. I remember Patty was the manager. She was an old lady. And once you learned this task, then you checked it off, initialed, and went to the next task, even starting on day one of what the Burger King process was.
Now,
Uh,
now let me ask you this. When you showed up day one, ready to go, Amanda's all fired up, did you clock in?
yes, we should and always clock in. These are the hours that agreed upon and getting paid from the moment that you're clocking in. And why we're asking these questions, we're going to spin off into the dental world that is what is happening in dentistry. But yeah, it wasn't this negotiation of Burger King, oh, we may hire you or we will hire you, but you're not getting paid yet. Come on now.
You don't know our system of how we stack the Whopper, so you're not worthy of being paid.
Right.
And and by the way, you're welcome because we're training you.
Yeah, like it's it's definitely not this, well, you should be grateful for the job or the career that we're training you how to do X. So take that training as quote unquote free. No,
Right.
no, 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 no.
It's like a proposed trade-off of, hey, you're not producing anything for us because you're holding us back, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you have to make that investment.
Yeah. So even in John, give us your example. What was your first job?
Ooh, well, I can tell you, I worked at the local grocery store, and I worked in the deli. I remember a friend of mine was a cashier. It's kind of like this echelon of cashier, bagger, deli, and actually, I'm gonna put deli above bagging. Because I remember thinking I don't want to bag groceries, and he said, "Hey, I can get you a job in a deli." So I get a job in a deli, and you have to be 18 to work in a deli because of the slicer. You're working with the slicer. So,
Right.
that was day one. Now, I didn't show up, and they weren't like, hey, don't clock in because we're going to teach you how to slice meat, and we're going to teach you how to break it apart. It was kind of like, okay, this is my agreed upon rate. And, you know, I want to say I want to say I was getting like 475 or 525 an hour. It was either one of those. I can't remember. I remember 425 was minimum wage, and I remember I got paid more. It was either 50 cents or a dollar more because I worked in the deli. So that was why I wanted one of that position as well. So yeah,
High rolling as well. You
yeah.
were
So they
making bank,
yeah, I was, ooh, man, I was filthy rich, so, but
eating sliced cheese. I
um,
was eating chicken tenders.
that was frowned upon. That was definitely frowned upon to make yourself a sandwich. I'm not going to say it did or didn't happen, but you showed up. There was a training plan, and there was a payment arrangement in place. This wasn't a, hey, thank you so much for coming. Now here's the part where you're going to learn, and you're welcome because we're going to teach you. And therefore, this shadowing process, learning curve, you're not going to get paid for 3 or 4 weeks, and not only you're not going to get paid for 3 or 4 weeks, but you're not going to be paid for this period ever.
Yeah. And then, so of course, Dental Assistant Nerds podcast, we're relating this to what in the world is happening in the dental community. Come on. What is happening? And it's crazy that more and more that we're hearing about these issues of no pay for a training period or doing an interview and the pay rate is never discussed, but dental assistants are going in for a day or 2 or 3 days of quote unquote shadowing. And this conversation of, well, am I getting paid for this is coming up down the road or not at all. So offices are getting 2 or 3 days, if not even more, a little bit less of this quote unquote shadow period of, well, we have to train you our way of policies, procedures, and our way is our dental office. So we're either taking, a no pay at all or a substantial low pay. So what is happening? What is happening in the dental community? How did this even transpire? And if you're listening to this podcast and you're not part of the dental community, we also are always thinking, is this helping? Is this happening other places? Is this happening in other career fields? And my sister-in-law is a nurse. I've never heard of her taking a position and being like, oh, I had 2 days of shadowing for them to determine whether I like it there and they like me to determine, and it was a no pay rate. My parents are school teachers, public school teachers. Oh, this, few days of shadowing at no pay. It, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how dentistry has transpired to this idea of not investing in your team from the beginning. Let's be honest, we're all going to work. We're all in a career field to get a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, recently I got into an argument with a doctor who was a consultant as well. So it's like this this stems from, okay, this worked in my practice. Now I'm consulting other practices and I'm giving this terrible advice. It's like, well, don't bring them in for a working interview because it's called working, so you have to pay them. So let's call it a skills assessment because now we're kind of circumventing what's really going on, and we're not going to pay these people for a couple hour or or a day skills assessment because we want to make sure that they fit the mold. And in the past, we know offices have done this to basically get around covering a vacation day is essentially what they're doing. There's really no job opportunity. It's, hey, we're not going to pay for a temp. Not only are we not going to pay for a temp, but we're really going to go all in on making money off of this. We're just not going to pay anybody anything. So, we're going to waive the temp agency fee. We're going to weigh the what it would cost for this person to normally come in for a couple hours, and they're like, hey, I'm a genius. Let me just tell everybody about this. And so when I confronted this doctor about it, it was like, well, I've been in practice for 25 years. And it's like, well, yeah, okay. Back in the day, yeah, people used to fight over jobs. We know it. It was definitely, there were so many people, not enough jobs. And the pandemic has really changed that. Like now it's, there's 3, 4 jobs for every one person. So this mindset of trying to get people to come in and work for free, like it's not happening. So
Well,
unfortunately
not
it does happen a little bit because obviously we're talking about it and it just blows my
yeah.
mind that people are like, well, this is a good opportunity. Even when I do polls on this in the dental assistant groups, and I'm like, hey, would you go and take a opportunity for a couple hours or a day if you felt like it would lead to a good opportunity? And I'm surprised, typically it's like one or two out of every 10 are like, yeah, yeah, I would. And it's like, come on, you're setting us back. Like everybody, not just dental assistants, but you're setting everybody back who's trying to earn a paycheck.
Well, in the sense of also, and we're obviously, if you've listened to us, we're huge advocates, and obviously this belief of changing the conversation of the dental assistant community and the career field, that if we want, across the board for doctors, office managers, whoever's in the dental community, if you want to be treated as a professional in a career as a dental assistant, then we have to change the conversation and asking those professional questions, and in the sense engagement of, listen, dental as a dentist, you took advantage of the dental assistants for years. Time's up. Time is up. Social media, as we all know, opened up this world of like, oh, wait a second, you are getting paid X and I'm doing the same, skills as you in the same town, and my doctors paid me $10 less. I mean, of course, even in our last, we just had a class of students that graduated our program, our 13-week program 2 weeks ago. The pay rates were anywhere between 15 and $26 an hour. That is a huge
13,
difference.
13.
13. Yeah, sorry, 13.
Yeah. And one,
13 to 26 in one class of 10 students, and one student was getting paid $13 an hour, another student was getting paid 26.
not to
We
mention, not to mention one student, the same student went on interviews and was offered 15 at one practice and 25 at another. So, I would normally say, oh wow, maybe one person interviews better than the other, but the same student got an offer of a $10 an hour difference.
Yeah, so and we completely understand the ownership. We're not owners of dental practices, but we definitely have knowledge and understanding that it is a business decision based on collection, production, percentage of what your overhead is when it comes to payroll, when it comes to supplies. So we definitely get, and we definitely teach our students as well, that a $3 million production a year dental practice has X amount of money versus a $1.5 million practice, or less than a million, whatever the numbers are. So don't get hung up on, that we're expecting an every dental assistant that's a new graduate making definitely in that 25, 26. We were shocked by those numbers. But on the other hand, when it comes to investing in your employees, so many times that we hear, and we of course see on social media, that, well, I'm going to hire this dental assistant for X because I have to train them. I'm sorry, come again. I personally myself am 22 years as a dental assistant, 10 years, 11 years as an EFTA. Even if I take a new position next week, I am going to need some training based on the policies and procedures of that dental practice, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So even if I go back to Burger King, which I'm not having an intention on doing, or getting a job at Apple Annie's or Annie Ann's Pretzels, for instance. Annie Ann's Pretzels were in the Pittsburgh region. They hire a high school student or they hire a 40-year-old female, male, whatever. They still need trained on how to make the dough, how to roll a pretzel, how much butter to use, how much salt. There's still a training period and process. So I just do not understand this battle of dentists and dental offices. Well, I need to train them. Well, welcome to the world of owning a business, and you hire an employee that they need some training.
Right.
That's
And
part of the process here.
as we know, if you decide to hire someone on the job, that's great. You want to train them your way, but you shouldn't lowball someone just based on that, because
No.
right now people do struggle with, yeah, it's a great opportunity, but you're paying me 12 and I can make 15 rolling pretzels. So, and what does that say for, we hear it all the time. It's like, where's everybody at? Nobody wants to work. Well, some people have bills, and that extra $3 an hour definitely makes up their mind on, hey, I'm gonna go, unfortunately, as much as I want to have a respectable career, it just doesn't pay. And this is where the knock is. And I don't know at what point it's finally going to sink in for someone to say, these offices want people who are highly trained, highly motivated, but yet they want to pay them. Now you can officially say they're paying them less than a high school kid working at McDonald's or working at a pretzel place. I just saw Costco's hiring people, mid 20s to $30 an hour. Like they're raising people up. So now it's like, and another thing now that I'm thinking about it, Amanda, it's like sometimes practices are like, well, they work evenings, they work weekends.
Yes.
Well,
I was just thinking the same thing.
you know,
Yeah.
okay, that's not a selling point. I mean, it is a selling point, but that's no
Yeah.
reason to, keep money off the table. Like, oh, well, this person doesn't want to work weekends, so I'm going to just go ahead and keep all this extra money. It's like,
Yeah.
but I'll bet these practices that, hey, we're going to work till 8, 9 o'clock at night, like you're not compensating people anymore. It's like,
Right. Right.
every,
There's not like this evening rate.
yeah,
I think our local sheets, you can get hired as a daylight employee for 1550, and then a night 11 to 7 a.m. or 11 to 6 a.m. it bumps up to 1850. So
yeah,
even if to get to sheets, there's clearly, I mean, I'm sure yet again in a sense of, you're not jumping to the drive through. There's a process for you to be able to learn the skills to get there. So one of the things that we always hear, let's be honest, over the past 5 years of owning a dental assisting school, there are some practices that are constantly reaching out to us that they need to hire yet again another assistant. Why are you always hiring? Why why did your assistant that you hired 6 months ago or a year ago not stay? I mean, for instance, we have those students that were offered $13, $14 an hour. Be realistic here. Let's take a step back and put yourself in their shoes. So, as a dental office practice owner, office manager, you offer that person $13 an hour. You do the investment of training that dental assistant over the course of the 6, 9, 12 months. And all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, I know now all these skills, and you do an evaluation, you're like, I'm going to give you a 4% raise. I don't know what 4% is on $12, but it's very minimal. Uh, Peace out. I'm going down to Dr. Smith's office because he's starting his dental assistants out at $18 an hour. So why would that employee stay?
the new rate would be 12.48.
Thank you. I was thinking 42 cents. That's the quick math. 12.48.
Yeah.
I would probably put my resignation in that very moment. All right, as of right now, this is my 2 week notice. Thank you for the opportunity. The employee obviously has every right to move on. And then yet again, you're back to square one of trying to find a person, paying for Indeed ads, doing your interview, people not showing up for interviews. So we all know that, this is a huge problem that's going on with that process. But of course, they're going to go on to another practice where they're going to make more money. And now you just invested that year, when in the title of our podcast, investing in your team, that when when we're even talking to dental practices do not have that turnover, and then practice owners are going to those offices and like, you never have turnover. You're always fully staffed. What's your secret? Pay and benefits. That's the secret.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to hire someone
Yeah.
$12 an hour and offer them training, you need to evaluate, okay, it's been a year. This is what a dental assistant with 1 year of experience would make. You should probably bump them up, like nickel and diming them at this point and offering them 50 cents or a dollar, bringing them from 12 to 13 or 13 to 14. It's not going to cut it because now they start to meet people in the field, and now they know, our students get on average about 17 to 20, 21 an hour to start. So whenever we have students who are getting offers of 12 and 13 to, work, be trained in a practice, it's kind of mind-boggling, and one thing we didn't touch on, we talked about earlier, before the podcast, is we're not just picking on it from a dental assistant point of view. Like we see it in
Mm-mm.
groups, hygienist, associate dentist, it's kind of like they're getting asked to come in and work for free as well to get trained up and spun up on the system. And it's kind of like this cycle of, well, I had to suffer through it and I didn't get paid, so you shouldn't get paid, and then that person shouldn't get paid. Like the cycle needs to be broken because dentistry as a whole definitely needs to plug the dam with the amount of people that we're losing. We're just not replacing people fast enough. And then, of course, in the next couple of years, they predict another third of people are going to be retiring. So, you know, what are you going to do? We lost so many people during the pandemic. And, finally, 5 years later, finally, I stopped seeing some dentist post about, you know, oh, it's picking up. It'll calm down. People are coming back, and it's like, I remember 2 or 3 years people kept posting that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like these people are gone. They've
Yeah.
opened up Etsy shops, and they're making buttons that we're buying for our students. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. That there's not going to be this surge of people just coming back to the dental community, and the aspect of, schools not having a ton of students from a hygiene perspective or a dental school perspective. We can mark that as a whole other podcast for a whole other deep conversation of how and why that's an issue. But investing in your team is huge. Of course, when you are investing, that it is to a certain extent, a sacrifice, and it is a risk. Because what if they still leave? And of course, I mean, it's just part for the process. It's part of just business owning of, for in the moment, I had a good employee. Unfortunately, as we know that life happens and you have to take care of an elderly parent, or you have a child of your own, or we have to move because, a spouse is positioned somewhere else. So all of these quote unquote what ifs. But I think more and more research and just the aspect of taking a step back and looking at your dental practice, that investing in your employees is going to give you a much long-term benefit of keeping those same employees versus this high rate turnover. Definitely a huge, in a sense, red flag um, of why that office is always hiring.
yeah.
But what are the other ways we can invest in our employees? What is one of the other things we've discussed, John?
Well, I feel like, and I've been on both sides of this to where, hey, there's a class I saw. We're gonna go to this class. Oh, me too? No, you don't need CE, you know? You don't need CE. So no,
Yeah.
unfortunately I'm gonna take the two hygienists and the EFTA. So, unfortunately, we'll give you the notes whenever we come back home. So, that if you're going to set up these team building and the camaraderie, and hey, we see dentists all the time in groups. Hey, I'm thinking about taking my team on a trip. What's a good CE course? That's a great way to invest in your team, but you want to include as many people that it's going to affect as well, because one of the biggest complaints we get from assistants is, well, I wasn't invited, but of course I'm the main one doing it, whenever they come back and they're all of a sudden being shown what to do. And of course, nobody relays all the information. A doctor went to an 8-hour course and then they come back and give a 20-minute, hey, this is how you do. It's just not going to fly. So,
No.
investing in your team, that shows a lot as far as culture goes, because I know anytime I've ever had to leave a job, I always make a pro and a con list. And, with that being said, if I'm adding up. Amanda and I talk about, we are definitive business dental assistants. Like, we understand the business and we teach our students what a benefit package is worth. So if they know that you're spending X amount on CE a year, like that stuff's getting factored into my decision making process. So, I think that it's a good idea to share that information of what you're paying for these courses and what you're investing in your team. And hey, who can go, who can't go, and set that expectation right away.
Yeah, I think that's a great conversation to have during that interview process when you are discussing rate. It is still mind blowing how many even students that we've had in the past 3.5 years that get into a position, they've accepted a position, but they don't know how much they're getting paid. They don't know how much the benefit package is. They don't know if they're being offered CE courses, scrub allowance, medical benefits. There's a very large miscommunication in that interview process. I don't understand it, of how you can accept a position when, as an employee myself, that we've not talked wage, but then also as an employer, why you wouldn't think about bringing it up. I mean, I that's it's part. I don't know how that gets lost in translation. But have those things in writing of this. These are the CEs that we're going to. This is, I'm offering you $18 an hour, but I offer my staff a $350 scrub allowance every year. I have an office that I work in personally that they buy lunch every Monday. There's certain things along the way that you have to be realistic, like, of what that investment is. And investing in your employees is just going to boost morale. And let's be honest, we're human. We all want, not in the sense that, oh, good job, high five, sticker chart, and who accomplished what for the day. But, we're human. I mean, think of, like, telling your kids, hey, how was your day? Great job. Thank you for the day. Office manager, you're leaving for the day. Hey, thank you for your help. All of those just minor things can make a huge difference in investing in your team, but also making sure that we're keeping that positive communication open, and communicating what our concerns are and addressing those concerns, and making changes, of course, as we need to. But I think that in the sense of today's world, today's economy, nobody can afford no pay. I don't care. Honestly, it doesn't, I don't, maybe Elon Musk, maybe him.
Well,
But besides, huh?
no, no, I mean, I agree, but I think that, there's some alternatives that you can, uh, come up with. And, we talk about training rates.
Yeah,
Hey, unfortunately, you are new to the team, and, you're not contributing in production. Um, you know, Completely understandable, but come up with a training rate to offer someone, hey, just come in and shadow for free. At least set these escalators up that, hey, this is your higher rate, but for the first, week, 2 weeks, this is the training rate. And then also, we recently saw an office had an unexpected equipment issue. And so the doctor was like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to pay a couple holidays. Well, is there anything I can do to salvage my morale of my staff? Eh, so, you know, setting that expectation on those holiday pays as well. We understand that there's no production coming in, what it's going to cost an office to pay for one holiday. Set your holiday pay. Get with an appropriate HR, make sure you can do that. Holiday pay, from what I'm aware, it's not required anywhere in the United States to offer it. So you should be able to offer some kind of holiday pay at a reduced rate. So now you can at least, make that more affordable. Everybody still is getting some type of pay, but now that you're eliminating some holiday pays, you're probably going to lose some people over what could be, a couple days of production. So, unfortunately, you got to make the hard decisions there, but by planning ahead, one example I can think of is there's a certain chicken restaurant that's very popular in the United States. And on our military weekends, we would go there and they would give us 50% off. And I was like, oh my, 50% off. And I remember one time we were standing in line, you figure meals like eight or $9. And I remember one time, I'm standing in line and this lady comes up and hands us all $5 bills. And I'm like, I'm getting paid to eat today. And I even tried telling her, hey, we get a discount. And, it was like 4.89 with the discount. And she gave me $5. I'm like, this is incredible. And, they did that for about a year. And then they just come in and they completely eliminated the discount. And I would say probably three-quarters of our base stopped going because they eliminated the discount. Had they just offered 10 or 20%, like at a reasonable rate from the beginning, everybody would have been happy. It would have kept going and they wouldn't have lost that customer base. So
yeah,
I'm not saying that just because you're in the military, like you should be entitled to a discount, but same process. If you go and change the rules of the game halfway through, unfortunately, you're going to lose some morale.
Yeah, nobody likes those rule changes and we're going to make up the rules and change the rules as we go. If you need to change your employee policy that is in your employee handbook for new hires, then I think that's fair. But to burn your employees that've been with you 10, 15, 17, 18 years on, changes, oh no, this is no longer uh it goes hand in hand with, oh, cap salaries, which we could probably make another podcast as well. Of, no business is ever capping their production for the year or collection. Walmart wants to grow every year. Every dental practice wants to grow every year. So, it, I think sometimes we get wrapped up in business. We understand that, it's all business to keep the lights on, to pay insurance, to clean the floors, buy supplies. It's a huge amount of overhead, especially in dentistry. Um, but you also need to think of it, we're all people. You have to think of, taking care of people. I mean, look at Google. I mean, they're playing ping pong and taking naps and like sleep pods half the middle of the day. I'm not saying you have to do that,
Right.
but people want to get in there. People want to work for that company because of the benefit, and then those companies probably don't have high turnover. They're not, if they're hiring, it's because of growth. And for as much as some dental practitioners are struggling to find one hygienist, one assistant, we know quite a few dental practices that are fully staffed all the time and are big offices. And they keep adding more and more people because the growth of their practice is keep growing and growing and growing. But on the other side of that, that we know what those employers are offering those employees on, I mean, it's like writing on the wall that shows exactly why they're in the situation that they are with being fully staffed at all times. We would work for those employers if we lived closer to, so to speak.
Yeah.
So investment in others can take you far in business. And of course, we know it can take you far in life. In the sense of, let's be fair here. I think of offering a holiday pay, but Christmas falls on a Saturday. Christmas Eve is on Friday, so we're going to take Thursday, Friday off. Like, oops, sorry, no holiday pay because Christmas is on a Saturday instead of during the
Right.
week.
Right. And
Come
now,
on now. I
yeah,
mean, it's just,
I think you
it,
really got to make sure your handbook is like tip top because
yeah,
I can't stand when I see, hey, we pay 8 holidays and now you get a year where everything falls on the weekend. And, I completely understand that, hey, it's not a day we normally work, but be upfront about those things. I
yeah.
feel like it's very misleading and false advertisement to rope people in with that promise. And then, of course, they literally find out like the week of.
Yeah, it's like the fine print. Oh, sorry, no, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
not this holiday because it's Saturday or Sunday. Even though we're going to take the day off on Friday or Monday, it's now a no pay day because the holiday's on the weekend.
Right.
It's just yet again investment into your team. So, uh, we love to hear, of course, any ideas. Of course, even on our podcast such as this, we always transpire even more ideas. So, anything else, John, you want to add for the day?
No, no, I think we've said a lot. So I think if you do have something to add, feel free to email us at cornerstonedainstructors@gmail.com. Of course, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I believe it's currently is saved, so that I'm not entirely sure of. But we'd love to hear if you have an idea on a topic, or if you just want to discuss a previous topic. Feel free to contact us. We'd love to put something together. And of course, we're always looking for future guests. So if you have something you feel that you're uniquely qualified to share to the community, feel free to contact us on that aspect as well.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. So continue to stand tall, stand out, be that difference, be the example of, who you want to be within your community, within your dental community. Continue to keep your mind open. Education enhances understanding. So take those CEs, read those magazines that your doctor might throw in the garbage. from Dental Town or whatever may have you. So just continue to educate yourself and continue to bring more value and find that home that, appreciates that value for sure. So thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to you listening to our next podcast.